This video is part of an open challenge that happens every month on the 1st. This month's theme is Trash to Treasure, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that after the first project. From scrap lumber to outdoor thermometer. So when I saw the theme for this challenge, I took a walk to the far corner of our yard and poked through some of the broken chairs that we had thrown there and found a few blue ones that I liked, and so I chose one to use for this project. This is the thermometer that I'm going to be replacing, and if you can tell there, it's held on by a little brace. So I took the wood and cut off the bottom just to clean it up, and then I used a bowl to cut a curved line. You'll see the arrow there, and I circled the line and used my brand new jigsaw, and it took me 2 tries, but I think it came out pretty good. What do you think? All right, so I did cut it on the front, and it splintered, so I used a couple of different pieces of sandpaper to, smooth it down and get rid of the splinters. And then I have this Krylon indoor-outdoor finishing spray, and I just sprayed the whole thing down to try and get rid of any splinters there might be. So here I'm going to attempt to remove the thermometer from this metal brace here. And then I wanted to just attach the wood to it and then have something on the back that you could see as you approach the house, because this is our front door here. But it wasn't coming. It wasn't coming. I thought, I'll hold the back of it. No, my socket wrench wouldn't fit back there. I tried just holding the socket. Nothing wasn't coming. So, tried the other screws, and the other screws are holding the little brace on there, and they started to give. So I thought, okay, I'll remove the whole thing, and then maybe I can sit down at my desk and work on the rusty ones. And Mr. Man of the House has knocked my camera sideways. And I don't realize, but I do hold up the thermometer like a ta-da. And I'm going to spray it with the WD-40. So I set the brace to the side, and as I'm handling the thermometer, it's literally just falling apart. So this was a good project at a good time. Tried a few different things after it sat for a while, and nothing was working. Nothing. And, I had an idea in my mind of how this was supposed to look, so I did get a little bit frustrated and, just kept examining it, what am I going to do here? And so plan B was to just attach the whole piece of wood to the door frame. So I put the painter's tape there to mark the original holes, and then that way I can just do the pilot holes on the wood, and it'll fit perfectly. And that's a neat little trick. You could also put the sticky side on and kind of loop it around and then put that on the back if you want to drill the pilot holes from the back. But I find this works. So to start, I'm doing the hole that's going to hold the thermometer onto the wood. And then I put my tape with the holes in the middle, and then used my little drill there to drill the pilot holes. Then I was pretty sure I was going to paint something on this, so I went ahead and put a coat of Mod Podge on it. But the words that I wanted something like happiness or grateful, blessed, when you look outside in the morning, how do you feel? What do you want to see? So I found happiness the word happiness that fit the place I had for it. So I just taped it down with some painter's tape and used a Dollar Tree foam dabber. I went over it once, and then I came back holding the stencil down firmly and did another coat. And that helps the stencil stay put and also gives you a darker result with less bleeding. And I think it came out pretty good. Again, what do you think? Just going to give that a quick wipe. I don't think it really matters on the stencils if you clean it perfectly. I know Annie from Indiana Jones just leaves hers like with the paint on, and she says she thinks it makes it like sturdier. So there I am with the screws attaching the wood to the existing holes there, and it was like super duper easy. I just put the tape down and put the screws in almost all the way through and sticking out, and then I was able to find the holes behind and finish screwing it in. Now I'm just going to I put some E6000 glue, screwed it in, and here's the final result, and I'll give you a better look at the final reveal. So jumping in with a little bit more information about the playlist. It happens every month. On the 1st, this month's host is Brenda from Rustic and Lace, and her co-hosts are Amanda from 6 Kids and a Glue Gun, and our other co-host is Shantell from Crafty Hints. Their links to their channels, as well as a link to the playlist, will be in my description box below. You'll notice I'm not doing the traditional trash to treasure, and I hope you'll enjoy that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the video. From packing materials to a flower box. This is a TheraBox, a subscription box, and they use shreds, paper shreds, as their packaging material, along with a little bit of paper as well. So the shreds are going to be the treasure. So I thought this was funny. See how that's all jumbled there? That it's about to go to be cut. This is Design Space for Cricut. I was originally making this project for a farmhouse themed challenge, but I ended up not having enough projects. So I was making this one and I was like, whoops, that is not going to work. So look, I changed it. I went back and attached things and welded it, and everything came out all together as one image. So I'm glad I got that before it cut. So now I've laid out the supplies that I'm going to use for this flower box. And of course we have the 2 house shapes. They're just wood on the back and like a erase board, like a dry erase board on the front, the white. So the black vinyl from Cricut works perfect. I have the little wood palette there. That's going to be the bottom of the floor box. And then I have these stretched canvas. And sorry, I'm saying this out of order. I have the stretched canvas. People like to do these in a different way. And I'm talking about removing the stencils. So how I do them is just use a cheap pokey tool, raise up the staple, and then pull it off with a small pair of pliers. And I was actually able to get them all this time. So everything now is going to get a rub down of burnt umber acrylic paint. We're talking like everything except, of course, for the vinyl, but anything wood is going to get rubbed with the burnt umber. That's just a baby wipe, a damp baby wipe, and burnt umber acrylic paint. So we're talking the back and sides of the house shapes, the whole little wood palette there, and all of each frame. I pre-cut some chicken wire, and actually was not quite the right shape, so I'm trimming here with some wire trimmers that I purchased from Temu. And just sort of trim and then twist some of the wire if it's poking out, and just make sure you leave enough so that you can staple it to the back of your frame. Excuse me. So I laid everything out, and now it's time to glue. It's a pretty easy project, actually. So I'm using wood glue, but I will put some hot glue on there to hold it together. So see how put the wood glue in the center of the bottom of the wood shapes, and then I came back in with some hot glue on the corners to hold everything together. I've already done the first house shape, so you see me attaching the second and just holding it together for a bit. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the frames. The wood glue in the middle and a little bit of hot glue on either side. And once I had a look at it, I'm looking as I'm gluing, I realized it wasn't as flush as I thought it was going to be, so I dumped a bunch of hot glue in there. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I forgot the handle. So the glue's setting up and I'm like, all right, I gotta get this on there before I break it, trying to put the handle in there. So I got it in there, thankfully. But if you didn't, you could make it smaller and use more glue, or you could like drill little holes in the top of the house shapes there and put the handle through that. But I got it on there with just a little bit of glue, and now I'm using my shreds. That's my trash to treasure. And I love how I can see it through the chicken wire. That's why I use chicken wire instead of like slats or burlap or something. And these are little pots from another project, and I just wanted to pop them in there to see how it looked. And you couldn't even see the pots. It looked fantastic. But I am going to put in some succulents, and that's what I'll use when I take the final reveal pictures. I got the succulents off of Amazon. Some are really tiny and others are huge and need to be cut apart. So better look at the final reveal. From charging wire to sign hanger. So these are 2 gaming themed signs that I purchased from Temu, and I did not realize how flimsy and unsubstantial they were going to be. So I brought them together with my other supplies here, and I'm going to decide which one looks best. What do you think? I settled on the white one. I just think the contrast between the white and black is going to make the sign pop. Now, I forget what this is, to be honest with you. I have a couple tubes that are the same. I think this is caulking, but I could be wrong. It's a much brighter white than the sign actually is, but it's going to make those holes less visible. And so I am okay with that. And this is the tiny little rope that came with it. And I just kind of held it up to it. I'm like, there's just no way I can use this. So that got set aside. This is some faux leather that I purchased from a thrift store. It was like a big bag of like brown faux leather, black faux leather, like a textured black faux leather. So I want to add a masculine edge to this sign, and I thought this was like the perfect way to do it. Now, I got some paint on the sign from a previous project, and when I wiped it off, it left a mark, like it dulled the white. So I ended up doing that, in different spots on the sign just to make it more intentional looking. I used some painter's tape to to tape over the edge of the sign, all the frame part of the sign, and I'm just going around with some black, it's called ink chalk paint, and that's just to, it's just in case the faux leather doesn't fit perfectly, the lighter brown wood isn't going to poke through, and that's why I just did it on the edges. I didn't bother painting into the middle. Now I'm going to use some Mod Podge and probably put a little bit too much in there. It kind of like brought some of the paint back, but that's okay because it's going to be underneath everything. So I did scoop a little bit of that Mod Podge off because you never need enough. You never need that much Mod Podge unless you're doing like a burlap or a fabric. But since I'm doing the faux leather here, I do need a substantial amount, but that was like way too much. We've got things cleaned up there. Now, you could also put this leather on like half at a time. Some people like doing that. It's, it's a preference. I didn't mind doing it like this. And you'll see, you gotta look really close to see the gaps between the faux leather and the frame because that black does a good job of concealing it. Now, full disclosure, I actually put the faux leather on twice, because the first time I tried using a black charging wire as a border, and wow, it's just the glue. You could see it, the black on the black. The glue was like so visible, and the cord was like really inflexible, and it was hard to get in the corners. So I ripped it off and cut up a new one, and this is the one that I'm using now. And I often use rope as a border, and I wanted to change things up with this sign, but the black charging wire just didn't work. So I went ahead and used some brown twine that I had. That was also purchased from Temu. And I'm just slathering the back of the gaming themed sign with some hot glue. This glue gun is kind of broken, so it takes a while to get some out of there. But we managed, and I'm just doing a quick measurement because I can move it around for a little bit. I want to make sure it's an even space on either side. Looking good. So I have my charging wire now. It's sort of like white. And I trimmed it using the wire trimmers, and then I just tied a knot and put a whole big old glob of hot glue there and nestled the knot on the wire into the glue. And then there's no way of knowing like how hard it's going to be to staple this stuff on, like these wires, because I've never used them before. So I tried the office stapler first. It actually worked pretty good. They didn't go all the way in, but they went in enough. So I did the same on both corners and put some weight on the sign there, and I'll give you a better look at it during the final reveal.